My wife lost 50 pounds and suddenly said I wasn't on her level anymore. I agreed for a divorce. 6 months later, I ran a marathon, and she was begging me back while she gained it all back from stress eating. All right, Reddit, buckle up because this one's a wild ride. My wife dropped 50 pounds and decided I wasn't good enough for the new her. Said she needed someone who matched her energy, so I gave her exactly what she asked for. 6 months later, she's blowing up my phone while I'm crossing a finish line, and she's stress eating her way back to square one. Here's the whole thing. I, 34 male, work as a senior accountant at a mid-size firm in Columbus, Ohio. Been doing numbers for about 12 years now. Worked my way up from entry level after getting my CPA right out of college. Not the most glamorous career, but it pays the bills and then some. Own a decent house in the suburbs. Drive a reliable truck I've had for 8 years. Got a garage full of woodworking tools that I actually use on weekends. My dad taught me carpentry when I was a kid, and it's been my main stress relief ever since. The woodworking thing started small. A birdhouse here, a shelf there. But over the years, I got pretty serious about it. Built most of the furniture in our house from scratch, including a dining table that took me 6 months to complete. Black walnut with hand-cut dovetails on every drawer. My wife used to joke that I loved that table more than her. Looking back, maybe I should have paid more attention to that joke. My ex-wife Natalie, 32 female, and I were married for 7 years, together for 9 total. Met her at a friend's wedding reception when she was working as an event coordinator at the venue. She had this infectious energy about her, the kind of person who could make small talk with anyone and actually seem interested. I liked that about her. Still do, if I'm being honest. She made everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. When we first got together, we were both carrying some extra weight. Nothing extreme, just the comfortable relationship pounds that happen when you discover you both love pizza and hate the gym equally. We'd joke about it, call ourselves the fluffy couple, and honestly, neither of us cared. We were happy. At least I thought we were. Our weekends were predictable in the best way. Saturday mornings, I'd be in the garage working on whatever project had my attention, and Natalie would bring me coffee and sit on the old couch I kept out there just for her. She'd read magazines or scroll her phone while I sanded and stained, and we'd talk about nothing important. Sunday mornings meant pancakes, which I always made from scratch because my grandmother's recipe was worth the effort. Then we'd binge whatever show we were into and order Chinese food for dinner. That routine felt like home, like something permanent and safe. Natalie worked her way up from event coordinator to managing the entire events department at this upscale hotel downtown. Good money, lots of stress, but she thrived on it. I was proud of her. Always told her she was the ambitious one in the relationship while I was the steady one. She used to say that's what made us work. Yin and yang, she called it. Our house was this 3-bedroom place in Westerville that we bought about 5 years into the marriage. Nothing fancy, but it had a nice backyard where I built a deck from scratch and a basement I converted into a workshop. The workshop was my sanctuary. Bandsaw, table saw, drill press, hand planes I'd collected from estate sales over the years. Everything had its place. Natalie used to joke that my tools were more organized than her entire life. We had a good thing going. Dinner together most nights, movie marathons on Sundays, that comfortable routine that makes marriage feel like home. Sure, we'd both put on weight over the years. I was probably 240 at my heaviest on a 5'11" frame, and Natalie had gone from about 145 to around 195 on her 5'6" frame. But we never made each other feel bad about it, or so I thought. Her parents actually commented on it once, during a holiday dinner at their place. Her mom Karen made some offhand remark about how happy weight was a sign of a good marriage, and her dad Richard laughed and patted his own stomach like it was proof. They were good people, Natalie's parents. Never made me feel like I wasn't good enough for their daughter. Karen sent me recipes she thought I'd like, and Richard would call me for advice whenever something in their house needed fixing. Things started changing about 18 months ago when Natalie's company brought in this new wellness program. Free gym membership, nutrition coaching, the whole corporate health initiative package. At first, I was happy for her when she said she wanted to give it a shot. Everyone deserves to feel good about themselves, right? She started going to the gym before work. 5 a.m. sessions that had her out of bed while I was still sleeping. I'd wake up to an empty pillow and cold sheets, reach for her out of habit, and find nothing. Then she overhauled our entire kitchen. Out went the pizza nights, and in came meal prep containers filled with grilled chicken and vegetables. I didn't mind adjusting. If this was important to her, I could support it. The meal prep thing became an obsession. Every Sunday, she'd spend hours in the kitchen weighing portions and calculating macros on this app she'd downloaded. The fridge that used to hold leftovers and random takeout containers was suddenly filled with identical Tupperware, each one labeled with the day it was supposed to be eaten. My grandmother's pancake recipe got replaced with protein pancakes that tasted like cardboard mixed with regret. My buddy Craig noticed the changes before I fully processed them. Craig's been my best friend since college, works as a firefighter downtown, and has zero filter when it comes to telling me things I don't want to hear. We met freshman year when we were randomly assigned as roommates, and we've been tight ever since. He's the kind of friend who'll help you move a body and then roast you for whatever got you into that situation in the first place. Dude, when's the last time Natalie actually ate dinner with you? He asked one Saturday while we were at his place watching football. His wife Jenny was out with her sisters, so it was just us and a bunch of wings I'd picked up on the way over. I had to think about it. She eats, just different stuff. She's on this whole clean eating thing now. That's not what I asked. When's the last time you two sat down and had an actual meal together? Not her eating her sad chicken while you microwave leftover pasta? He had a point. Natalie had been eating separately for weeks, always with some excuse about timing her meals around workouts or needing specific macros at specific times. Our dinner conversations had been replaced with her scrolling through fitness Instagram accounts while I ate alone at the table we'd built together. The table I'd spent 6 months on. The one she used to say was her favorite thing in the house. She's just focused right now, I said. It's a phase. Craig gave me that look he always gives when he thinks I'm being naive. The one where he squints slightly and shakes his head like I've just said something profoundly stupid. Hope you're right, brother. But I've seen this movie before, and it usually ends with some dude moving back in with his parents. Natalie's not like that. They're all not like that until they are. The physical transformation was undeniable. Over the course of about 8 months, Natalie dropped from 195 to 145 pounds. She looked great, I'm not gonna lie. Her face thinned out, her collarbones became prominent, and she carried herself differently. More confident, more aware of how people looked at her, but more than her body changed. Her entire personality seemed to shift. The woman who used to curl up on the garage couch in sweatpants now wouldn't leave the house without a full face of makeup. The woman who laughed at my dumb jokes now seemed annoyed by them. The woman who loved our quiet weekends now found them boring. She started buying new clothes constantly. Tight dresses, workout gear that cost more than my tools, heels she never would have worn before. Her closet underwent a complete transformation. All the comfortable clothes she used to live in got donated to Goodwill, replaced by stuff that looked more suited for Instagram than real life. Her social media transformed from pictures of us together into solo gym selfies and inspirational quotes about becoming your best self and outgrowing situations that no longer serve you. That last one should have been my first real warning sign. I even mentioned it to her one night. That quote you posted today, I said, while she was brushing her teeth. The one about outgrowing situations. What's that about? She shrugged without looking at me. Just something my trainer shared. It resonated. It resonated how? Justin, it's just a quote. Don't read into everything. But I couldn't help it. The quote felt pointed, like a message meant for someone specific. Maybe me. Her new gym friends became her primary social circle. Group of women who all looked like they stepped out of a fitness magazine and talked about nothing but protein intake and squat PRS. Their names were Kelsey, Brittany, and Madison, and they all had the same aesthetic: ponytails, athletic wear, and matching water bottles that probably cost $50 each. She'd go out with them for healthy dinners that somehow always turned into late nights. I'd be in bed by the time she got home, and she'd slip in smelling like some club instead of a restaurant. Her gym bag started containing clothes I'd never seen her wear, including this sparkly top that definitely wasn't meant for working out. I tried to keep up at first, started going to the gym myself, making some effort to eat better, downloaded a calorie counting app and tried to make sense of the whole macro thing. But every time I'd suggest we work out together, she'd have some excuse. Her trainer had a specific program for her. Her gym friends were doing a class she'd already committed to. She needed her solo time to focus. Maybe next week, she'd say. Every week, it was maybe next week. The message was clear even if the words weren't. She didn't want me in that part of her life anymore. Her parents noticed the distance before I was willing to admit it. Her mom, Karen, called me one afternoon while Natalie was at some fitness retreat weekend. 3 days of yoga and juice cleanses that cost about $2,000. Justin, honey, is everything okay with you two? Karen asked, concern obvious in her voice. She'd always been warm with me, treating me like the son she never had. Why do you ask? Natalie's been different lately, distant. She barely returns my calls, and when she does, all she talks about is her workouts and her new friends. She used to tell me everything about you two, about your projects, about your plans. Now it's like you don't exist in her conversations. That stung more than I expected. She's just focused on her health stuff right now. I'm sure it'll balance out. Karen was quiet for a moment. I hope so. You're good for her, Justin. You've always been good for her. Don't let her forget that. But Natalie had already forgotten, or decided she didn't care anymore. The actual conversation happened on a Tuesday night in March. I remember because I'd just finished a new coffee table I'd been working on for weeks. Walnut with maple inlays. Probably the best piece I'd ever made. The kind of thing that would have sold for over $1,000 if I'd ever bothered to sell my work instead of just making it for our house. I was excited to show her, had even taken pictures to post on the woodworking forum I followed. She came home from the gym around 8 p.m., which was late even by her new standards. Usually she was back by 7 at the latest. I was in the living room, coffee table positioned perfectly under the lamp to show off the grain. "Hey, check this out," I said, gesturing to my work. "Finally finished it. What do you think?" She barely glanced at it. "That's nice. That's nice." 2 words for something I'd spent 3 months on. 3 months of early mornings in the garage, carefully selecting each piece of wood, hand-cutting the inlays until they fit perfectly. And all I got was, "That's nice." "Is everything okay?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Natalie set down her gym bag and turned to face me with this expression I'd never seen before. Cold, calculating. Like she was looking at a stranger instead of her husband of 7 years. Like she was evaluating a piece of furniture she'd decided didn't match the room anymore. "We need to talk, Justin." Those 4 words, the relationship death sentence. I sat down on the couch, and she remained standing. Power move, whether she realized it or not. She'd learned that somewhere, probably from one of those self-improvement podcasts she'd been obsessed with lately. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started, pacing slightly like she'd rehearsed it. "And I've come to realize that we're just not compatible anymore." "Not compatible?" "We've been married for 7 years, Nat. We were pretty compatible last I checked. That was before. Before I became who I really am. Before I started actually taking care of myself and growing as a person." She said it like I was supposed to applaud her transformation and accept my dismissal gracefully. "And what does that have to do with us?" She sighed like I was a child who couldn't understand basic math. "Justin, look at you. Look at us. I've changed so much this past year. I've evolved. I've pushed myself to be better, to be healthier, to be someone I'm proud of. And you're still the same person you were when we met. The same person you married, you mean?" "Exactly." She said it like I'd just proven her point. "I married someone who matched where I was. But I'm not there anymore. I'm on a completely different level now. And honestly, you're not on my level anymore." I let that sink in. Not on her level. Because she lost weight and started wearing expensive yoga pants. Because she replaced pizza with protein powder and our marriage with gym selfies. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need a partner who matches my energy. Someone who's driven, who takes care of themselves, who wants to grow and evolve. Someone who's on my level." She said that phrase again like it was some profound wisdom instead of shallow nonsense she'd picked up from her new friends. "And I'm not that person because I didn't lose 50 pounds. It's not just about the weight, Justin. It's about mindset, ambition, drive. You're content to just be okay at everything. Okay job, okay body, okay life. I want more than okay now. I want exceptional. I'm a senior accountant at one of the top firms in the city. I built half the furniture in this house with my bare hands. I've been a good husband to you for 7 years. See, that's exactly what I mean. You think that's enough? You think being stable and reliable is the same as being extraordinary?" I stood up, surprisingly calm, given that my wife was essentially calling me a loser to my face. "So you want a divorce?" She blinked, apparently surprised I'd gotten there so fast. She probably expected me to argue, to plead, to promise I'd change, to go buy a gym membership and start drinking protein shakes and become whatever version of me she'd decided was acceptable. "I think we should discuss our options. Maybe start with a separation, see where things go." "No, no, no separation, no trial period. No, maybe we'll work it out later. You just told me I'm not on your level. You looked me in the face and told me I'm not good enough for you anymore. If that's how you feel, then we're done. Completely done." Now she looked uncertain. This wasn't the script she'd prepared. "Justin, I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. And honestly, I'm not going to beg someone to stay with me who thinks I'm beneath her. You want out? You're out. I'll have the papers drawn up by the end of the week." Her face did this weird thing where she clearly hadn't expected me to agree so readily. She'd probably imagined me crying, pleading, promising to change, promising to become worthy of the new her. Maybe she'd even fantasized about me begging, while she magnanimously agreed to give me another chance. Instead, I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and headed to the garage. Had some sanding to do, and I wasn't about to waste another minute on someone who decided I was worthless. Craig's reaction when I called him that night was predictable. Jenny answered first and immediately handed the phone over when I said I needed to talk to him. She knew something was wrong just from my voice. "About time, brother. I've been watching her treat you like furniture for months. The disrespect was getting ridiculous. You could have said something. Would you have listened? You were still making excuses for her last month when she skipped your birthday dinner to go to some fitness competition watch party. He had me there. She'd completely forgotten my 34th birthday, then acted like I was overreacting when I mentioned it. I had plans I couldn't cancel, she'd said. Plans to watch strangers lift weights with her gym friends, while I sat alone at the restaurant where I'd made reservations for two. The divorce was surprisingly clean, legally speaking. We'd kept our finances mostly separate except for the house, which we agreed to sell and split the equity. No kids, thank God. Just 9 years of my life walking out the door in yoga pants. The lawyers were efficient, the paperwork straightforward. Within 2 months, I was officially single again. Her friends were all over social media, celebrating her freedom and her new chapter. Lots of posts about how brave she was for choosing herself and refusing to settle. Meanwhile, I was the villain in her narrative, the guy who held her back, the anchor dragging down her glow-up. Kelsey posted something about how some people are meant to be stepping stones, and I knew exactly who she was talking about. Whatever. Let them have their story. I had my own to write. The house sold in 3 weeks. I bought a smaller place closer to downtown, a fixer-upper that needed exactly the kind of work I loved doing. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that hadn't been updated since 1985, and a garage that could fit my entire workshop. Perfect. Craig came over to help me move, along with a few other buddies from our fantasy football league. Tommy, Rick, and Dave showed up with trucks and bad attitudes, ready to haul boxes and give me a hard time about my furniture being too heavy. You really need a couch made of solid oak? Tommy complained, as we maneuvered it through the doorway. That's walnut, and yes, I don't care if it's made of unicorn tear. Thing weighs as much as a car. We got everything transferred in one day, then sat on my new deck drinking sodas and eating pizza. The first pizza I'd had in months since Natalie had banned it from the house. So what's the plan now? Craig asked. I'm going to do exactly what she said I couldn't. I'm going to actually improve myself, but not because she wanted me to, because I want to. Everyone went quiet for a second. Rick raised his can. All right then, to the new Justin. To the new Justin, everyone echoed. The next morning I started running. Just around the block at first, huffing and puffing like an asthmatic walrus. My 240 pounds didn't appreciate the sudden demand for movement after years of relative inactivity. My knees protested. My lungs burned. By the time I made it back to my driveway, I was bent over with my hands on my thighs, questioning every life choice that had led me to this moment. But I went again the next day, and the day after that. I kept at it. Every morning before work, I'd lace up my shoes and hit the pavement. First it was 1 mile, then 2, then 5. My body started changing without me even focusing on it, just a natural result of consistent movement. I didn't overhaul my entire diet like Natalie had. No meal prep containers or macro counting or eliminating everything enjoyable from my life. I just ate less garbage and more vegetables, drank more water, and stopped eating when I was full instead of when the plate was empty. Simple changes, sustainable changes. The weight started coming off. Slowly at first, then more noticeably. I went from 240 to 220 in the first 2 months, then down to 200 by month 4. Clothes that hadn't fit in years suddenly hung loose. I had to buy new jeans 3 times. My belt got tightened by 4 holes. Craig documented the whole thing like he was my personal hype man. Every time we hung out, he'd comment on how different I looked, how much healthier I seemed. Jenny started sending me articles about running form and nutrition tips. Their kids started calling me Uncle Runner, which was annoyingly cute. Around month 3, I decided to set a real goal, something concrete and challenging. I signed up for a marathon, not a 5K or a half marathon, a full 26.2 miles. The Columbus Marathon, happening in October, about 6 months from when I started training seriously. When I told Craig, he nearly choked on his drink. Dude, you went from couch potato to marathon runner in less than a year? That's a fast track to Injury City. I've got 6 months to train. People have done it with less time. People are idiots. You sure about this? I was sure. More sure than I'd been about anything in a long time. I found a training program online and followed it religiously. Long runs on weekends, speed work during the week, rest days that I actually rested on. Bought a running watch that tracked everything from my pace to my heart rate to how much oxygen my muscles were using. The data nerd in me loved having numbers to analyze. Joined a local running club that met Saturday mornings at this park on the east side of town. Group of all ages and abilities who welcomed me without judgment. There was a retired teacher who'd only started running at 60, a nurse who worked night shifts and ran to decompress, a couple of college kids training for cross-country, and this older guy named Walter, probably mid-60s, who'd been running marathons for 30 years. Walter took me under his wing from day one. First Saturday I showed up, Barely able to keep up with the slow group, he hung back and ran beside me the whole way. Everyone starts somewhere, he said, when I apologized for holding him back. I couldn't run a mile when I started. Now I've done 31 marathons. You just need time and consistency. He became my unofficial coach. Tips about pacing, nutrition, mental preparation, how to fuel during long runs, why rest days matter as much as hard days, the importance of sleep and recovery. The guy was like a running encyclopedia, combined with a motivational speaker. The marathon isn't about your legs, Walter told me during one of our long runs through the park, about 8 miles in when I was starting to struggle. It's about your head. Your body will want to quit around mile 20. Your brain has to convince it to keep going. How do you do that? You find your reason, the thing that matters more than the pain. Could be proving something to yourself. Could be honoring someone you lost. Could be finishing what you started. Whatever it is, hold on to it when your legs start screaming. I knew my reason. Didn't need to think about it. The training wasn't always smooth. Month 4, I pushed too hard during a speed workout and tweaked my hamstring. Had to take 10 days off and nearly went crazy sitting on my couch while my running watch collected dust. Physical therapy twice a week, ice baths every night, and enough stretching to qualify for a yoga certification. But I came back stronger. By month 5, I was down to 185 pounds and running 40 miles a week. I'd dropped from a size 38 waist to a 32. My resting heart rate had gone from 85 to 58. Coworkers started commenting on how different I looked. The receptionist at my office asked if I'd been sick because I'd lost so much weight so fast. I told her I'd just started running. She looked at me like I'd said I'd joined a cult. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not just thinner, leaner, more defined. The guy staring back at me had visible collarbones and actual muscle definition in his arms. First time in my adult life I could see my abs. The new house was coming together too. I'd refinished the hardwood floors, rebuilt the kitchen cabinets, and was halfway through a master bathroom renovation. Between running and working on the house, I barely had time to think about Natalie, which is when she decided to resurface. First it was a text. Hey, heard you've been running. That's great. I didn't respond. Then an email. Justin, I know things ended badly between us, but I've been thinking about you. Can we talk? Delete. Then she showed up at Craig's place during our regular Sunday football hangout, knowing I'd be there. Jenny let her in before realizing what was happening, and suddenly there she was in the living room, looking completely different from the woman who'd left me. She looked different. Not the sleek, confident version of herself that had walked out of our marriage. Softer around the edges. Tired. Her gym-toned physique had clearly been replaced by someone who'd stopped prioritizing the treadmill. Hey, she said when she caught my eye. Can we talk outside? Craig looked at me, eyebrows raised. I shrugged and followed her to the front porch. Natalie fidgeted with her keys, not quite meeting my eyes. You look amazing. I almost didn't recognize you when I saw you at the grocery store last week. What do you want, Natalie? I made a mistake. She said it fast, like ripping off a bandage. A huge, stupid, arrogant mistake. I was so caught up in my own transformation that I convinced myself I'd outgrown you. But I was wrong. What changed your mind? She laughed bitterly. Everything fell apart. The gym friends? Turns out they were only friends when I was showing up every day and fitting their image. Once I started missing sessions, they dropped me like I was contagious. Kelsey unfollowed me on everything. Brittany stopped returning my calls. Madison literally walked past me at Target like she didn't know me. And now? She finally looked at me directly. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I gained it all back. All 50 pounds, plus about 10 more. Stress eating. Once I wasn't exercising obsessively and the life I thought I wanted started crumbling, I just fell apart. I'm not the same person you left, Natalie, and I'm not interested in going backward. She wiped her eyes. I get it. I just needed you to know I was wrong. I nodded. Okay. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, I hope you run an amazing marathon. Craig mentioned you were training for one. October. Columbus Marathon. I'll be cheering for you, even if you don't want me there. After she left, Craig came outside with 2 sodas. You okay? Yeah. Actually, yeah. I think I am. Marathon morning arrived cooler than expected. Perfect running weather. Low 50s with overcast skies. I'd laid out my gear the night before, pinned my bib to my shirt, set 3 alarms even though I knew I wouldn't sleep. Ate a bagel with peanut butter at 4 a.m. like Walter had taught me. Stretched in my living room while the sun came up. Craig met me at the starting corral, wearing a homemade shirt that said, Go Justin, in sloppy paint letters. Jenny had made it, apparently, and Craig had been too afraid to tell her it looked like something a kindergartner would produce. Tommy, Rick, and Dave were there too, stationed at different points along the course with signs and air horn. You look ridiculous, I told Craig. I look supportive. There's a difference. The gun went off and thousands of runners surged forward. The energy was electric. People cheering, music blasting, the collective anticipation of 20,000 people about to do something hard together. The first few miles were crowded and slow, which was fine. I'd trained to negative split, starting slow and finishing fast. Found my rhythm around mile 3 and settled into a comfortable pace. By mile 10, I was feeling strong. My legs were loose, my breathing steady. Strangers lined the streets shouting encouragement, holding signs, ringing cowbells. Kids stuck out their hands for high fives. Someone was blasting Eye of the Tiger from their front porch. An old lady had set up a lawn chair with a sign that said, "Random stranger, I believe in you." I actually got a little choked up at that one. Mile 15 brought the first real challenge. My left calf started tightening, the same one I'd tweaked in training. I backed off the pace slightly, focused on my form, and the cramps subsided. Walter's voice was in my head, reminding me to stay relaxed and trust the training. Your body knows what to do. Get out of its way. Mile 18, I saw Tommy on the sidelines with his air horn. He let it rip right as I passed, screaming, "Looking strong, brother!" Probably annoyed everyone around him, but I didn't care. The boost was real. Mile 20 was where Walter said the race really began. He wasn't wrong. Suddenly, every step felt like wading through concrete. My legs screamed for mercy. My brain started suggesting creative reasons to stop. A bench would feel really good right now. You've already proved something. Nobody would blame you for walking. You could catch the next one. But I kept moving. Mile 21, mile 22, mile 23. I passed runners who'd started faster but couldn't maintain. I passed a guy who'd stopped to stretch his cramping hamstrings. I passed a woman walking with her hands on her hips, completely cooked. The crowd support intensified as we got closer to downtown. People packing the sidewalks 5 deep. Mile 24. Rick appeared with his sign. "Almost there, you beautiful idiot." Mile 25. 1 mile left. The pain was everywhere now. My feet, my legs, my back, my shoulders. Everything hurt. But the finish line banner appeared in the distance like a mirage. Mile 26. The crowd noise swelled. I could hear the announcer calling out finisher names. Half a mile, quarter mile, 200 meters. When I turned the final corner, something broke loose in my chest. Not pain. Something else entirely. Relief. Pride. The overwhelming realization that I'd actually done it. I crossed the line at 4:17:33. Craig was waiting in the finisher's area, ugly shirt and all, holding a bottle of water. Jenny was next to him, phone out, recording everything. "You did it, brother. You actually freaking did it." I couldn't talk, just grabbed the water and tried not to collapse. Every muscle in my body was staging a protest, but I was smiling so hard my face hurt. That's when I noticed her. Natalie was standing about 20 feet away, behind the crowd barrier, holding a small sign that said, "You were always on your own level." She looked heavier than when she'd shown up at Craig's. The weight gain was accelerating. She caught my eye and smiled. A little wave of acknowledgement. Then she started pushing through the crowd, making her way toward me. "Justin, that was incredible," she said, reaching for my arm. "I knew you could do it. I always believed in you." I stepped back. "Thanks for coming. Can we talk? Maybe get dinner this week? I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I really feel like we could work things out now. You've changed so much, and I've had time to realize what I lost. Natalie, I'm not interested. But you're different now. You're exactly what I was looking for. We could start fresh, build something new together." Craig stepped forward, positioning himself slightly between us. Jenny stopped recording. "You wanted someone on your level. I found my own level, and you're not on it." Her face crumbled. "Justin, please. I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, and everyone lives with the consequences. Good luck, Natalie." I turned and walked toward Craig, who was watching the whole exchange with barely concealed satisfaction. "Cold," he said as I reached him. "Honest. Same thing sometimes. Come on, Jenny's got food at the house. You earned it." About 3 months after the marathon, I met someone. Her name's Brooke, a veterinarian who moved to Columbus from Indianapolis to take over a practice from a retiring partner. She came into my life the most mundane way possible. I was at the hardware store buying supplies for the bathroom renovation when she asked me where to find the PVC fittings. "You doing plumbing work?" I asked. "Trying to. My kitchen sink has been leaking for a week, and every plumber I called is booked until next month. I've got towels under the cabinet and a bucket that needs emptying twice a day. I could take a look at it if you want. Not a plumber, but I've fixed my share of leaks." She raised an eyebrow. "You always offer home repairs to strangers in hardware stores?" "Only the ones who look like they might flood their kitchen otherwise." She laughed, and something about that laugh hit different. Nothing performative about it. Just genuine amusement from someone who didn't take herself too seriously. I fixed her sink that weekend. Simple washer replacement, 15 minutes of actual work. Her house was a small ranch in Clintonville, filled with photos of dogs and cats she'd treated over the years, plus 2 rescue dogs of her own, who followed me around the kitchen like I was the most interesting thing they'd ever seen. She insisted on paying me back with dinner. Dinner turned into talking until 2 a.m. We covered everything from her vet school years to my marathon training to why we'd both ended up single in our 30s. She'd been engaged once, called it off when she realized her fiancé was more interested in her family's money than in her. No drama, no games, just honest conversation. Talking turned into another date, then another. Then she was coming to my place on weekends, bringing coffee to the garage while I worked on projects, asking questions about what I was building. She'd sit on the same couch Natalie used to sit on, but actually engaged instead of scrolling her phone. "What's this going to be?" she asked one Saturday, running her hand along a piece of cherry I was shaping. "Jewelry box, dovetailed corners, felt-lined interior. For someone special?" I looked at her. "Maybe," she grinned. Smooth. The jewelry box took me 3 weeks. I presented it to her on our 2-month anniversary, and she literally teared up when she opened it. "This is the most thoughtful gift anyone's ever given me," she said. "You made this? With your hands? For me? That's generally how woodworking works, yeah." She hit my arm and then kissed me. That was the moment I knew this was different. Craig approved immediately. "She's normal," he said after meeting her at one of our football Sundays. She'd brought homemade chili and actually watched the game instead of staring at her phone. Like actually normal. Doesn't seem like she's going to decide you're beneath her in 6 months. Thanks for the confidence. I'm just saying, this one feels different. He wasn't wrong. I ran into Natalie one more time, about a year after the divorce was finalized. Grocery store parking lot on a Sunday afternoon. She was loading her car a few spots away from mine, struggling with heavy bags. She'd gained more weight since the marathon, a lot more. Her face was rounder, her movements slower. She was wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, the kind of outfit she used to mock as giving up on life. "Justin, hey! Hey, Natalie!" She looked at Brooke standing next to me, holding my hand. Took in the whole picture. Me in running shorts and a race t-shirt from a 10K we'd done that morning. Brooke in similar gear, medal still around her neck from placing in her age group. "Who's this?" Natalie asked, though she clearly already knew the answer. "This is Brooke, my girlfriend." Natalie's face went through about 5 different emotions. Surprise, hurt, anger, jealousy, and finally something like defeat. Her eyes flicked between us, taking in how comfortable we looked together, how happy. "Nice to meet you," Brooke said politely. She'd heard the whole story by now, knew exactly who she was talking to. Natalie ignored her completely. "So you've moved on. That's great. Really great for you." "It is, actually. And I'm sure she appreciates all your little woodworking projects, and your running and your boring stable life." The venom in her voice was barely concealed. This wasn't sadness. This was jealousy turned bitter. Brooke stepped forward. She's not a confrontational person by nature, but something about Natalie's tone flipped a switch. "Actually, I do. Every bit of it. The woodworking, the running, the stability. He built me a jewelry box that made me cry. He trained me for my first half marathon. He makes me coffee every morning without being asked. Is there something else you needed?" Natalie's jaw tightened. She looked at me like she was waiting for me to intervene, to apologize for Brooke's directness, to smooth things over the way I always used to do. I didn't say a word. "No," Natalie finally managed. "Nothing at all." She got in her car and slammed the door so hard the whole vehicle shook. We watched her peel out of the parking lot like she was fleeing a crime scene, nearly clipping a shopping cart on her way out. "She seems fun," Brooke said. "She used to be, before she decided fun meant tearing everything down. Her loss." We loaded up our groceries and headed home. Brooke made dinner while I installed new cabinet hardware in the kitchen. Her dogs sprawled on the living room floor, exhausted from the morning's activities. Normal Sunday stuff. The kind of life Natalie used to love before she convinced herself she needed something more exciting. Last I heard, Natalie's still single, bouncing between diets, cycling through gym memberships she never uses, posting sad quotes on Instagram about the one that got away. Her mom Karen still texts me sometimes, apologizing for how things turned out. I always tell her I'm doing great, because I am. Brooke moved in about 6 months ago. She thinks the dining table I built is the most beautiful piece of furniture she's ever seen. She brings me coffee in the garage on Saturday mornings, and actually listens when I explain what I'm working on. She ran the half marathon with me last fall, and we're both training for a full marathon together this spring. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.